Welcome back, everyone. Today we're traveling back to medieval Europe, a dark and grim era where marriage was not only bound by the church and sacred vows, but could also end in blood and steel. In 15th century Germany, when a husband and wife fell into deep conflict yet lacked clear evidence to accuse one another, they were allowed to choose a bizarre method: trial by combat. This was no joke, but a public court session where the husband was buried waist deep in a pit, one arm bound, armed only with a blunt wooden club. The wife, meanwhile, was free to move, wielding a heavy sack filled with stones. Before the judge and the gathered villagers, the two would clash, and the victor was seen as the one God had chosen. In that age, if words could not settle a marriage, violence would deliver the verdict. Gruesome, isn't it? Don't forget to like and subscribe so we can keep exploring. In these so-called divorce by combat trials, the rules were carefully set to avoid too much imbalance between genders. The husband, normally stronger, had to accept a disadvantage, half buried in the earth, one hand tied, wielding only a club. The wife wore her usual clothes, free to run and dodge, swinging the stone-filled sack. A weapon, simple yet deadly. The fight unfolded before judges, priests, and villagers, like a sacred ritual drenched in dread. The winner was believed to have been vindicated by God, gaining the right to divorce, to keep property, even to break free from the bonds of marriage. The loser, however, faced humiliation, imprisonment, or even execution. A marriage that might have ended in tears instead closed in blood and the roar of the crowd. The atmosphere of these combats was thick with tension and morbid curiosity. Villagers flocked to the pit as if attending a festival of blood. Drums pounded, the judge's voice boomed the verdict, and the weight of anticipation pressed on everyone. All eyes fixed on the couple about to turn old love into mortal combat. Some watched eagerly for the first strike. Others shivered at the cruelty, but none dared leave, for this was God's judgment. When sack met club, when groans split the air, the crowd howled as if witnessing divine power itself. Marriage, in that moment, became a bloody spectacle for the entire community. When the duel ended, the consequences went far beyond wounds. The victor was instantly declared chosen by God, granted freedom to divorce, to seize property, and to leave the marriage with honor. The loser faced a grim fate: imprisonment, exile, or death, all under the community's gaze. Villagers gossiped for days, treating the combat as both horrific entertainment and a moral warning. Yet behind the jeers lay shattered lives, as once sacred love was turned into a deadly game of justice. This custom of divorce by combat reflects the medieval world, where law was primitive and faith in both religion and brute strength reigned supreme. It gave women a rare chance to fight on equal footing with men, while giving the community a way to resolve disputes without evidence. But in time, its brutality and injustice became undeniable. Too many duels ended in death, leaving families ruined and children orphaned. As law grew more sophisticated, both church and secular courts tightened their grip, and this practice faded away. Today, it remains a grim relic in the history of marriage. Proof that in those times, love that could not end in quiet separation was decided instead by blood and steel. In 1460, the fencing manual Fechtbuch by Hans Talhofer depicted vivid scenes of such marital duels. To balance the fight, the husband was buried to the waist, one hand tied, armed only with a wooden club. The wife was free, swinging her stone-filled sack. Whoever triumphed was considered to have God on their side, and thus won the right to divorce and claim property. But the loser paid dearly. Men could be executed, women sometimes buried alive. A bloody court of law, seen by the medieval mind as divine justice. In 13th, 14th century England, marriage was held sacred under church law, but women had one narrow escape: proving their husbands were impotent. The ecclesiastical court would summon both parties, and in some humiliating cases, the husband had to undergo public tests of his virility. If declared incapable of fulfilling marital duty, the marriage was annulled. This rare pathway to divorce highlights both the rigidity and absurdity of medieval law. Yet it also shows that women, despite living under patriarchy, could exploit legal loopholes to reclaim their freedom. In the 12th century, Eleanor of Aquitaine, one of the most powerful women in Europe, married King Louis VII of France. But the union quickly soured. Louis was austere and devout, while Eleanor was bold and ambitious. After years of discord and no male heir, Eleanor petitioned the Pope for annulment, citing that they were too closely related by blood, thus violating church law. The marriage was dissolved, and only weeks later, Eleanor wed Henry Plantagenet, soon to become King Henry II of England. This divorce not only freed Eleanor, but also shifted vast Aquitaine lands into English hands, reshaping Europe's political map for centuries. Looking back at these cases, we see marriage in the Middle Ages as both terrifying and contradictory. In Germany, couples fought to the death for the right to divorce. In England, women exposed their husband's impotence before a court to break free. And in Eleanor's case, divorce became a chess move that altered the destiny of kingdoms. Each story reflects a world where religion and power outweighed personal love. Today, we shudder at the thought, yet breathe relief that marriage is no longer judged by blood, humiliation, or political games. If you enjoyed these tales, don't forget to like and subscribe. More dark and bizarre corners of history.